Our next presenter is going to introduce the panel. So please join me in welcoming Connie Bonello to the stage. Connie is the Financial Services, Insights, and Data Practice Leader from Capgemini. So welcome, Connie.
There you go. Raise the microphone. So our next panel is all about Gen AI at scale. And I'm sure many of you in the room have done POCs or pilots. How many here have done a POC or pilot using Gen AI in the last 6 months or so? Yeah, I figured most of the people would put their hands up. But the question is, how do we bring Gen AI to scale? And as Renee said earlier, Gen AI at scale and production that we can trust. And our next panel is going to explore that. And at Capgemini, we recently did a study, a global study, where we asked recipients, 80% of them actually said that they're going to be embedding agentic AI into their organizational processes in the next 18 months. So are you ready for that? Like, that's something you need to think about, and I'm sure you're all thinking about that today. So I said this is about Gen AI at scale, and that we can trust it, and so that we can really drive out business value. And our panelists are going to talk about some of those nail-biting success stories that we all want to hear about in terms of how they did it, and hopefully some lessons learned that we can take home with us so that we can bring it into production. And our moderator today is Maya Beri. She's the CIO of Sun Life in the US. She comes with a wealth of experiences in leading global teams to bring AI strategies and technology to life and into production, has been doing that for a long time. But she's really passionate about education, wellness, and sports. And in fact, what I found really interesting about Maya, and I hope you do as well, is she's a competitive adult figure skater. Isn't that so cool? And she's an advocate for Skate for Life, and I hope all of us are doing something physical and active to keep us balanced in our everyday life. So thank you for doing that, Maya. I think that's a great thing that you're doing. One of our panelists is Janet Lin. She's the CIO for Equitable Bank, and that's a challenger bank in Canada, for those of you that don't know about that. And she's really amazing as well. And she's actually passionate about technology to enrich Canadians' lives. And I think that's what it's all about, is like making a better future and life for us all. But what's really impressive about Jan is she has a track record for really launching groundbreaking, globally award-winning technology and digital products into the market, and is quite impressed. And as a result of that, she's actually earned a number of awards, everything from Top 100 Women Most Powerful in Canada to Women in Technology and so forth, and many more. So really interesting to hear about Janet's story in terms of bringing AI or Gen AI to life and into production. We're also joined by Paul Lewis. He's the Chief Technology Officer for Pythian. If you know, it's a global firm that specializes in data analytics and AI. He has decades of experience. I'm sure he'll appreciate, I won't tell him how many decades, in terms of how he's bringing technology to life, and has done that for many years through his vision in terms of a strategic leader, but also being able to implement it and really drive business impact. We're also joined by Shweta Shrivastava. I think I said that right. Hopefully not. Close enough. But you can correct me if I'm wrong. I have no problem with that. She's a Senior Director of Product Management at Waymo, and I don't need to tell everyone here that's obviously Alphabet's self-driving car company. She's really has an interesting role. I thought it was really fun listening about your role. And what she does is basically she leads product teams to help with looking at driver behavior, doing simulations and ride hailing and so forth. So I thought that was really cool. But what's really interesting, she's worked at so many different organizations, including AI startups, AWS, McKinsey, Cisco. So really interesting panel. So please join me in welcoming our panel and moderators to the stage.
I'll go first. We're not in the right order.
All right. Is the mic on? Mic is on. Okay. All right. Hello, everyone. How's everybody feeling today? Awesome. We're right before lunch, so we'll be quick and short. It's great to be here with such a great panel. I'm quite impressed with all of these individuals here. I think, figure skating, I did not know if you will mention that, but that's all right. We actually have a lot of AI is in production. We're not realizing that. Speaking about figure skating, I'm making it up, but I do know that they do have an AI-based applications now, that they score the skaters, and they also help the skaters to jump the jumps. They're doing quadruples now, so maybe I'll start using it for my next quadruple jump. And another example, I was just looking up for an outfit to wear. I'm not a fashionista in any way, but I found that app called AI Outfit Roulette. I learned very quickly how that prompt engineering is really important. I'm not going to try the AI hair roulette. That will be interesting. But anyways, we know that scaling AI, especially in the enterprises, is a challenge. There's a lot of governance issues, regulatory issues. There is also ethics issues, and of course we all want to do it. We want to leverage AI. I think it will be the thing in the future, just like the internet. Like it's going to be here. So, but how we're going to scale it, how we're going to do it, so that panel is going to solve it all for us today. And we're going to talk a little bit about the value realization, the ROI management as well. So why don't I jump in? My first question is to all of you. So let's talk about how we move from the hype of the Gen AI to the actual business value. What does value creation look like, and how do we measure ROI? So we're going to start with Janet.
Awesome. Thank you. Thanks for the great intro. Before I answer your question, I do want to send my shout out to the only gentleman, Paul, on this panel. Paul and me, we went back, like our first panel together was 5 years ago. Mm-hmm. And just wanted to thank him for the long-term allyship to the women in technology community. Thank you, Paul. To answer your question, yes, we are at a very interesting point of evaluating the business outcome, and any technology is here to support business outcome, right? At a bank, we all know that during the loan process business, there are a mortgage loan is associated with 30 to 40 documents per loan, and it depends on the bank and the type of loan. It might take a few weeks. On the commercial side, every commercial loan is associated with 300 to 400 loans, and that the duration of the loan can be different from month to month. So we did a very interesting business evaluation to see we pick one out of the 300 loans, and we use AI to evaluate the outcome of the generative AI, and that we see a huge efficiency gain, 90% efficiency gain uplift. As a result, we had reached to 80+ adoption within the business, and that just happened in weeks. So when we talk about efficiency and outcome, this is a great example of how we articulate, how we quantify the efficiency of the innovation.
Yeah, I can go next. First of all, yeah, really excited, and it's been an inspiring day so far. Yeah, building up on what Janet was saying, I would say that the business value creation and ROI is also really dependent on the industry and the domain that you are in, how you define that. I work at Waymo, which is a fully autonomous driving company, and when I say fully autonomous, it's really no human driver at the wheel, right? Completely self-driving. And it's one of the most, or I could even say that it's the most complex application of AI in the physical world. And AI has become a little bit of a buzzword in the recent past, but for fully autonomous technology, it's table stakes, if you will. And so we've been using state-of-the-art AI capabilities across the stack, and now it's become even more exciting with the advancements in Gen AI and LLMs. So for us, we measure value creation along two key dimensions, I would say. The first and the most important is how are we improving the road safety. That is core to our mission. And we are all aware of the staggering number of deaths that happen because of road crashes or car crashes every year across the world. And so we regularly conduct studies to assess the performance of our technology, fully autonomous driving technology, with human benchmark. And we make that information available for everybody to see and understand as well. So as an example, one of our recent studies shows that in 50 million miles of fully autonomous driving, our technology reduced the number of injury-causing crashes by more than 80% compared to human driving. So that kind of metric, given what we do, is extremely important for us. The second dimension, obviously, is to provide a convenient and delightful mobility option to many, many users, including those who can't drive for some reason or another. And so we use a different kind of ROI or KPI, if you will, to measure the impact there. So one of the things that we track and also publish externally is the number of paid rides that people are taking with our fully autonomous technology, right? And it's like putting your money where your mouth is, right? It's the biggest indication of whether or not people are finding value in the technology. And we recently shared that we're doing more than 250,000 paid fully autonomous rides across a number of cities in the US. And we're obviously excited to take it to more places as well. But yeah, it's really exciting times for AI. And for fully autonomous technology, this is now kicking it up a notch. Yeah.
Paul?
Well, thank you for having me join. I appreciate being up on the stage with you. AI, like cloud, has a very guttural ROI, right? You kind of feel that it's going to have a positive impact on the business, right? And you can see it because you have an everyday consumer sense. I use ChatGPT, I use Grok, I use Gemini, and I can see it, I can see my positive behavior. I can draft emails faster. I can create a strategy faster. But it's not as easy when you try to apply sort of the platitude-rich ROI, right? It's much more difficult to say, is this actually creating growth? Is this actually saving money? Is this actually making more efficient? Because I think of it in a sort of grandiose state. I look at the bigger picture, the people productivity picture. But if you narrow it down to sort of the process productivity picture, the discrete productionizable use cases, it becomes far more obvious what the ROI is. So instead of looking at growth or efficiency or cost, I can look at things like, I'm going to use computer vision to automate a document to read the 5 fields that I deem the most necessary and put it in my distribution system. And I can reduce the dwell time of this driver, the distribution, from 2 hours to 5 minutes. That is an obvious, high impactful ROI. Or I could think of code conversion as the most obvious use case of AI from a technical sense. I know it would have taken me a month to convert this code manually and a day to convert this using an LLM. That is a high, obvious ROI. It's because I'm looking at it from a very discrete perspective. Instead of looking at the ROI of a prototype, I'm looking at the ROI of an actual productionizable implementation.
Yeah, that's awesome. In Sun Life, we're doing a lot of the use cases, and some of them are productionalized already. And it is tough to do value realization. I think with any innovation, it starts with a hypothesis, right? With a hypothesis. And then, as you learn more, you can actually understand what the real value is. Until you experiment, you don't quite know. And I would add, another tricky part about, especially the Gen AI, is that you never know how that productivity is getting used by the end users, right? We know we're creating productivity. We can estimate the number of hours, but you actually don't know if that hours, is being used for people having a work-life balance, or having a coffee chat, or having, doing some research. So it's a tricky part, and in Sun Life we did do a few use cases that help with the growth part as well. So those are all very, very possible. So let me move on. My next question to the panelists, Janet and Paul, will be when looking at scaling Gen AI across the enterprise, what do you see as the biggest hurdles you've faced so far, and how are you addressing them? Janet, maybe.
Go first?
Yeah.
Yeah. When any disruptive technology hit us, it is no doubt this is a challenge. But I think all of us, we will not take that as challenge. We take it as opportunities. If you look at, like, from a technology perspective, we first of all need to understand the strengths as well as the constraint of any new technology. So, like, to me, that is number one, right? What are the benefit that this technology will bring us, and when it also comes, what are the constraints that the technology has now? So we also need to build controls and policies to mitigate those controls. Like that to me is number one as technologists. Then the other barriers are, okay, now we understand the technology. We also need to educate our business, educate our stakeholders, so they also believe in the technology, understanding, and believing the value of the technology. So that's number two. And number three is, how do we, in order for us to go fast, we need to put all the proper governance and the controls, working with our second line, third line, working with our regulators. So when we grow, we don't grow by ourselves. We don't run by ourselves. We run as a team. So that's number three. Number four is, how about users? User training, user adoption. In order for us to scale, we have to educate our users, give them the proper training package so they understand how the technology is going to impact their day-to-day life.
It's easy to think of AI as the all-encompassing problem solver, but it becomes very, very real when you sort of add intellectual honesty and practical implementation, right? So intellectual honesty part is, it's still very deep in the trough of disillusionment in Gartner, right? It's deep, which means they're going to be just as much bad news as good news for the foreseeable future, right? It is still early days. Even though the models may be 35 years old, its practical implementation is 2 years old, right? So if we're honest on where its maturity is, then we can be honest where its application might be. And then you look at the races. Everything you read, when you go to a conference, you see all the Ars Technica. There are amazing use cases that you as an individual enterprise probably can't afford, right? They're very complex, very difficult. Most organizations, there are millions of organizations that are not telcos, banks, governments, right? They don't have the kind of hyperscale budgets to support that. So that's the intellectual honesty part. The practical implementation part is picking the right use cases that's valuable to you as an individual organization. Right? Very often we'll go and have a conversation with a regular company, and that regular company will have 400 amazing ideas. We will discover very quickly that 350 of those amazing ideas is analytics. It's BI. They always start with, I need to list that, right? So it already takes 350 in. Then you look at the last 50, 30 of them are out-of-the-box machine learning, right? Segmentation, classification. I can use actual inference machine learning that I can download and use, which is great. I can run those now. And if you fold ML under AI, then it falls under the AI category. Of the last 20, 15 of them they can't afford. They're large, complex, multi-million-dollar, 6-month projects, large investment in time and energy and skill set to which they don't have, or technology that's not even readily available. But the last 5, the 5 are the important ones, right? The 5 are productionizable. The 5, I can tell what the ROI is up front. The 5, I already have existing skill sets to implement. And the 5, I can justify with the business case of the CFO before I actually implement it. That balance between where it really is in maturity and what I can actually practically implement, that in many ways are the constraints.
That's very interesting, Paul. I was going to share some other example, but since what you shared is very important to prioritize the right use cases. And at Sun Life US, I know what I'm trying to spearhead right now. We're establishing an AI council that is exactly doing that, because there's so many opportunities out there, and everybody everybody has them, and then it's hard to pick the right one, and then we're kind of spreading thin on trying to do all of it, because all of them seem to be great on paper. But to your point, like the right prioritization of use cases with the right ROI, with the practicality, with even proving the concept, or making sure all of your executives are seeing the value from the AI, because some of them are still not believing in it.
And it's not always built, right?
Yeah.
We always want to start with sort of a readiness assessment. How much money do I have to spend? Is it $1 or is it $1 million? What's the policy I'm willing to engage in? Here's the tools I can use, here's the tools I can't. And then if you have a 52 card deck, is some of those cards going to education? So do I spend more time, let's say, teaching on prompting from the CEO down? Do I spend all of my money on building AI use cases? Or do I spend a good portion of my money, most of my cards, on embedded functions, embedded within the productivity tools, embedded with my ITSM tools, embedded with my databases? Because that might actually prove a higher value than building use cases.
Yeah, I know, that's very valuable. So my third question relates to the governance, risk, and trust. Those are really big issues, big topics. And the part one of this question is, how are you ensuring you have the governance you need? I know, Janet, you mentioned about it. So Shweta, maybe you'll start. I know autonomous vehicles they're there. They're there. I was surprised, how much we're already using it, but governance is very important in that aspect. So talk to us about that.
Yeah, absolutely. So, trust and safety is at the core of autonomous driving, and we take the AI reliability very seriously, especially because it's a safety-critical application. And we approach governance and risk from a few different perspectives or angles, if you will: robust testing, diverse data inputs for model training, and multiple layers of verification. Again, just think about the safety criticality of the application that we're talking about here with the fully autonomous driving. So for example, we train our models extensively with data from across multiple cities, and not just the cities that we operate in. And then we also use synthetic data, right? And that helps with the model robustness and reliability and being able to tackle all different kinds of edge cases. We have a very extensive set of methodologies and metrics that we use to assess the safety and robustness of these models before we deploy it in the real world. And we also, by the way, we call this the safety framework, our extensive safety methodologies. We've made this available for people to be able to see how we are assessing the safety of the models and just the technology overall, I would say. And then last and very important is proactively building that trust with the regulators and policymakers and the transportation authorities, and we proactively share with them the safety data of our Waymo driver as a shorthand for the technology that we built, and also give them insights into how this Waymo driver is making decisions in very tricky driving situations or edge cases. And that kind of, again, trust and transparency, especially with the regulators and policymakers, obviously in addition to the users themselves, is extremely crucial in the autonomous vehicle industry. So yeah, that's core to what we do here. That's
fascinating.
Yeah.
That's fascinating to me. And Janet, of course, banking, digital banking, I know it's not autonomous cars, but there's also a lot of regulations and ethical questions that are being asked. So what do you do to resolve those issues?
At EQ Bank, AI governance is a must-have for us to practice the technology of AI as well as to scale. We actually hired external consultant to help us to establish AI governance work. In terms of AI governance, I think this goes beyond technology. So there's the AI architecture. You want to make sure that you're building a scalable, centralized AI architecture that can be reusable and scalable to all line of business. And you also wanted to start a AI intake process and internal governance process, so people understand that there's the central enablement of the AI and the governance. And also, from an inventory perspective, we do need to have our internal inventory, so we can continue ongoing monitoring those inventories and standards and the policies. In addition, we work with our regulators, our risk second line or third line to build overarching AI governance, and that is beyond a technology governance. It is a bank-wide governance.
Yeah, no, that's great. In Sun Life, if anything, I would say what really worked well for us when we launched our chatbot for our employees and other Gen AI capabilities across the entire global Sun Life, we've learned very quickly that you need to involve our governance, risk, legal team very, very early, even in experiments, so that they're part of the solution and they know exactly what is being done. And I think that's very critical, because when you bring them afterwards, things usually get, they slow down when things need to be brought to production. Now, speaking of a very interesting kind of follow-on to that question is, I know we do a lot of internal experiments. There's a lot of productivity gains we talked about. But when it comes to taking Gen AI to the next level, to consumer use, this is even more scarier, right, from that perspective. So my next question is, what are we doing in a practical way to actually push our application to the consumer-facing way? So I'll start with maybe Paul.
Sure. So there is a practical issue with creating AI in front of a customer, in that in an enterprise sense, the answer always has to be right? In a consumer setting, using ChatGPT, it's 67% good at any one period of time, right? It cites incorrect sources, it makes up sources, it makes up answers, because any GPT's goal is to answer the question, not to answer it right? That's kind of distinction between the two. But in enterprise world, the answer always has to be 7. It can't sometimes be 6 and sometimes be 7 and sometimes be 8. It always has to be 7, which is why we learned very quickly when we're implementing AI in the enterprise world that it can't be a project under the BI team. It can't be a project under the CDO, because it's actually a software engineering project. I have to have constraints of the input and the constraints of the output. Is this an appropriate question to ask? Run the results. Is this an appropriate answer to give? Or more importantly, do I replace this answer with the actual answer based on the list of policies that I have? Because in a highly regulated world, I will get audited, and if I provide the wrong answer, then I might get sued, and then that creates, both a reputational risk and a monetary risk. And on Shweta's side, landing planes and stopping trains has a real human impact, right? It has to be right 100% of the time. It's in fact binary. I can't be 88% positive in my results in AI. I have to be 100% positive that this plane is going to land. And therefore, when I look at the OT world, the operational technology, it becomes far more important than the IT world, the people productivity side, enterprise search world, where it's okay to have different answers for different questions. It's not okay if it's a baby heart monitor.
Yeah. And Shweta?
Yeah, well, fully autonomous driving is a consumer-facing application, right? And I just mentioned a little while ago that we're already doing more than 250,000 paid rides every week across the cities that we serve in the US. So I can talk a little bit about, how we've gone about sort of building that public trust, because it's not easy, and especially it's not easy in an industry like fully autonomous driving. So first thing I would say is transparency. I may have mentioned this already, but really important to be transparent about the safety track record and how we are assessing the safety of the system, and be transparent not just with the users, but also with the regulators and the community at large. Because it's such a different kind of application, such a complex application, different from other enterprises. So that's one. Second, you have to adapt your the Gen AI application to your use case, right? Again, in the case of self-driving cars or fully autonomous technology, we can't just blindly apply Gen AI, because think about Gen AI hallucinating. That would be like a drunk driver, maybe even worse, right? So what we do is, we take the world knowledge and the powerful capabilities of Gen AI and LLMs, and combine that with the validation and the reasoning and the safety guardrails that we've built with our AV technology over the number of years. So that's sort of bringing the best of both the worlds together, and then really providing a robust and trustworthy system to the public. And then lastly, technology aside, it's really important to make sure that people, the common people who are using the technology, they're not daunted by the technology, right? It needs to be easy to use. It needs to be intuitive. And so from the very beginning, in our fully autonomous cars, or self-driving cars as they are, more popularly known, we made sure that the AV experience is seamless, right? And so a lot of times, in almost every instance, what we hear from the riders who take ride with Waymo for the first time is the first couple of minutes of that experience is like a sci-fi movie. They feel like, oh my God, there's no driver, and how this thing navigating itself in the complex roads of or traffic of San Francisco or other places. But within the first 5 minutes, they're at ease. They forget that there's no human driver at the wheel. That's how intuitive and sort of easy to consume the technology really needs to be for the end users. And I think that is often the aspect that gets overlooked when we get too enamored by the technology itself. So those are some of our learnings in making sure that we have a direct way to build a trust and also delight the end user through the Gen AI technology.
Janet, anything to add from your end?
No, I think we have one.
Oh, good. Yeah, I think we're running out of time.
Oh, wow, okay.
So maybe to wrap it up, what is one practical step that you want to share, maybe one sentence each, to get from the experiments to production?
I'll start. More than one sentence. Okay, setting up the foundation, which is like AI governance and all the standards and the controls in order to run fast. And then in order to scale vertically and horizontally, you gotta bring your business with you to expand AI more from a vertical lens. And then as you learn, you can adopt more complex AI use cases, then you can expand the AI in the scale of the horizontal. Yeah.
Sure.
Yeah, I would try to keep it concise as well. I would say, be pragmatic and clear about the problem that you're trying to solve with Gen AI. Don't get caught in the fad. And then have clear metrics and evaluation criteria to measure progress.
And I'd note from an IT perspective, replaceability becomes your most important non-functional requirement. The maturity right now is replacement of the models, replacement of the tools, replacement of the algorithms, replacement of the implementation on a monthly basis. So the last thing you want to do is design with a set of infrastructure and technology that is stuck, right? And that you now have an LLM that has been trained on 2022 data, giving you wrong data more often than good data, right? So think about it, Gemini 2.5 might be the winner this month. It won't be the winner next month, but it might be the winner again the month after, right? So you've got to think about that replaceability in your architecture.
Well, thank you all. I've learned a lot. I'm going to land that quadruple jump. So thank you very much. If any questions, I know we don't have the time now, but feel free to come and ask us after that.
Thank you all.